It is human nature to believe that over the many years that we have studied our planet, we know if not everything about it, then at least a great deal. We have learned how to move mountains, create and drain seas, turn back the channels of rivers, but there are still many unexplored places on our planet, which no one can explain. And by the way, often such places are right under our feet, and even with the latest equipment, modern man is not able to solve these mysteries. We are going with you to the shores of Nova Scotia in eastern Canada, where there is an unremarkable little island called Oak Island. For more than 225 years, people have been trying in vain to uncover its mystery, the secret, hidden report that everyone already knows about. But no one has yet been able to get their hands on it. So what is the reason? To the casual tourist, an island of only 1,500 feet looks quite ordinary. Rocks and sand line the perimeter of the land, and forest and shrubs cover most of it. But despite Oak Island's beautiful scenery, the history of this island's past is full of mystery, intrigue, and even tragedy. The story that took place here has captured the human imagination and brought many people from scientists to adventurers, each struggling with trying to explain the mystery of the money pit. According to official records, in 1795, 3 curious boys stumbled upon an abandoned mine. This is where the story of the treasure hunt on Oak Island began. In the branches of a large oak tree, the boys discovered a system of ship's underpants stretched out to a backfilled pit. It is worth saying that at the time the story of the pirates were not fiction at all, but the real truth. The guys managed to get into the hole at a depth of 9 feet. There they found a partition made of oak logs of the Yarrow tier of the mine side, going deep into the ground. The boys went no further and went home. But since Oak Island was already infamous among the locals at the time, the children's stories did not encourage the adults to continue exploring. It was several years before an inquisitive man named Daniel McInnes came to Oak Island in the company of like-minded people, hoping to find hidden under the ground treasures, and he probably had reason to do so. After all, mines don't just appear by themselves in the middle of a small island, which means whoever dug it had definite plans for it. In the early 1800s, diggers set to work, and already 4 meters under the top layer of soil found a wooden masonry, extending across the surface of the hole. Excitedly, the men dismantled the planking of the pit to get the long-awaited reward. But unfortunately, they found again a layer of earth. Of course, they continued excavating. And as the treasure hunters continued to dive down, they discovered that the pit had narrowed to 6 feet in diameter. And at a depth of 6 meters, another layer of wood was discovered. The wood encompassed the width of the hole, forming a wooden platform. The saw ends of the materials had been hammered into different sides of the tunnel walls to firmly reinforce the structure. This deliberate barrier and the hollow sound beneath the wooden boards should have confirmed that great riches were close at hand. But, as before, again disappointment awaited the enthusiasts. After they pulled out the barrier, a ready pocket of air was discovered, followed further on by the ground again. When the warehouse hunters pulled out a third platform of wooden kilos of material only to find another layer of soil, the team decided to suspend their work at this site. A few weeks later, the fortune seekers returned to the pit, discounting and shoveling. However, the second attempt for them was again a failure. After several days of working in the blazing sun, removing several more meters of earth from the deepening hole, they again encountered a body of thick wood embedded in the clay of the tunnel, the walls. Gravediggers and his companions dug another 3 meters before admitting defeat. Several weeks of work and a tremendous amount of energy expended forced them to stop their treasure hunt. All told, they were able to dig down to a depth of about 30 feet, and in doing so they removed about 5 stories of slabs. After this very first unsuccessful expedition came the bad reputation of the little island hiding its secrets. The mine was called the Money Mine. Be that as it may, but the search was resumed a few years later, when in the early 80s, the site, containing the mysterious hole, bought a certain John Smith. It was already an attempt to solve the mystery of the mine. More mature and experienced aspirants. In 1803, Simeon Lenz joined the excursion. He enlisted the help of Colonel Robert Archibald and Sheriff Thomas Harris. Together, the group formed a company of professional enterprises with the sole purpose of getting the Oak Island treasure. He and his men began their work by removing the mound from the first excavation. At a depth of 40 feet, the diggers found themselves in uncharted territory. From that point on, every second could be a discovery, but beyond that was still earth. At a depth of 50 feet, one of the workers hit a solid object. Removing the soil, another level was found, but this time the men noticed the remains of celestial charcoal scattered all over the platform. At 60 feet, there was another slat where coconut shell fibers were found. This was an important clue, although as coconut fibers there was nothing of value. But the reason the material may have been here was because coconut fibers had been used to provide and protect valuable cargo during long voyages on the high seas. The team had to dig for several more weeks, each time encountering more and more overlaps in their path, until, at a depth of 90 feet, they stumbled upon a flat rock with a mysterious inscription. Each character in the mysterious text consisted of a unique combination of lines, arrows, and dots. Despite its considerable weight, the men lifted the stone from the hole for further study. As the stone was found at a depth of 90 feet, the diggers continued their work. But further down, at a depth of 100 feet, they were again confronted by a wooden structure. And having passed it, the team was surprised to find the wooden obstacle again at a depth of 110 feet. The team members were so exhausted that they decided to dismantle this barrier the very next day, after which the team climbed to the top. They had no idea at the time how fatal their mistake had been, for when they returned to the mine at about 95 feet depth in the morning, the shaft was completely flooded with seawater. After countless attempts to pump the water out, they were unsuccessful. So for a time, the attempts to penetrate to the bottom of the mine had to be stopped. Looking down into the well, where there might be a huge fortune, the members of the company did not refuse to admit their defeat. In the fall of 1804, the group decided to use technology to overcome the challenge of the pit. To this end, they hired Mr. Carl Mosher and his mechanical pump to clear the tunnel and allow the men to resume their work. Immediately after the foreman installed the pump, the water level slowly began to drop down the wall. At a depth of about 75 feet, just a dozen inches where they stopped digging, the water pump failed. Without the pump working, the water quickly filled the hole again. As early as 1805, the same team returned to the island again with a new idea. Despite the first two attempts, the men believed the new approach would be fruitful. Instead of digging in the hole itself, they decided to dig a new hole parallel to the old one, and already from it underground to make a tunnel. But at a depth of only 20 feet, the new hole quickly filled with water. Several years of wasted effort, frustration, and depleted finances forced this expedition to admit defeat as well. Word of the wasted millions and the defeat of previous expeditions condemned the ardor of others who wished to do so, but only for 45 years. During excavations in 1840, it was discovered that the mine communicated with the sea through two artificial channels. But the main question remained: who built the mine on a small island, which is now beyond the power of modern explorers with expensive equipment? And all this was done several centuries ago. Interest in the excavations from the middle of the 19th century was fueled by the findings. The same stone piece of parchment with Latin letters and iron scissors, as well as fragments of a gold chain, which managed to get at a depth of about 90 feet. The fact was clear that a man had been there before them, but who and why is unknown. A certain colonel, who was also a member of the second group of prospectors, managed to find investors several years later, among whom were quite rich and famous people, as well as to attract the latest equipment, pumps, earth, sticks, drilling machines, and so on for those times. But this too proved pointless. The mine was arranged in such a way that attempts to penetrate it caused a flooding storm. It is since then that no one has been able to get rid of the water in the mine. The island with its mysterious mines did not give rest and did not leave the minds of enthusiasts and treasure hunters and the 20th century. From 1909 to 1960, as many as 7 expeditions visited the island. Each new group of enthusiasts was increasingly equipped with new and modern equipment. Each time, specialized specialists were involved, but no one was ever able to drain and understand the system of the mine. It can be said that since then, work has been carried out on the island almost continuously. and the local land has been sold and resold several times. In order to get to the truth and conquer the impregnable mine, in 1969, half of the island was purchased by Triton, owned by renowned prospectors Daniel Bank and David Tobias. With the latest equipment, carbon analysis of the logs and masonry of the mine revealed that the main construction work under the ground was carried out no later than the 1680s. The shaft itself is about 150 feet deep and 310 feet in diameter, and led to the now submerged underground vaults, the dimensions of which are still unknown. The new owners began their investigation by working in the archives. After several years of research and gathering materials, they built up the basic theories of the origin of the structure not on the island. Daniel took his time moving on to drilling, and when he started, he chose to do it 180 feet from the money pit. As he drilled the hole, he discovered a large hollow chamber behind the rock, and even saw something resembling a huge box, a kirk, and a human hand floating past the camera screen, lowered into the scherf. This was a small confirmation of the theory with pirates. After all, according to pirate custom, the Oak Island treasure is guarded by at least one dead man. Daniel was a very rich man who managed to solve many mysteries and find dozens of treasures. But the treasure of Oak Island is his life's work. He himself descended a 27-inch diameter tube to a depth of 165 inches to see what was in the underwater chamber. But the island was not yet ready to reveal its secrets. Since buying the land back in 1969, Daniel still lives on the island, but in recent years he has become a recluse. He has spent almost his entire fortune, and his sanity is slightly confused by his inability to unravel the mystery of the mine. The only thing he is 100% sure of is that such an elaborate treasure structure was not built by pirates at all, and maybe not even by humans. According to him, man is not capable of building something complex and elaborate, especially a few centuries ago, because at that time there was no way to study the underground waters, currents, and other things under this island. In 2005, a group of Michigan-based American industrialists, working in the depth drilling sector, became co-owners of the island. Perhaps the experts and owners of this company will still be able to uncover the mystery of the underground structures of the island. Oak Island has ruined several generations of seekers and has taken only officially 6 human lives of those who tried to get the treasure. The idea to turn the island into a tourist attraction, and at least that way to make money, did not find understanding among the owners of the island, who even these days regularly renew their licenses for prospecting. Experts put forward several versions about what lurks in the bowels of the mysterious Oak Island. The first version is probably the simplest and most common, the pirate's treasure. But many are inclined to believe that this version is for ordinary everyday people, such as you and me. For everyone to think that they are looking for treasure, but in fact, there is something much more serious. Scientists simply believe that the wastefulness, the bandits in the face of pirates could not spend a lot of time and effort to build a complex underground vault, which now no one can unravel. The second version states that the Inca treasure was transported to the north of the continent during a brutal conquest of the Inca Empire by the warriors of Francisco Pizarro in the early 16th century. Historical chronicles claim that the treasure looted by the conquistadors was only a small fraction of the empire's total wealth. But where did the bulk of it go? That is still a mystery. Some speculate that the treasure on the island was hidden by English monks from St. Andrew's Abbey. The monks hoarded their treasures for over 1,000 years and hid them in underground galleries like those found on the island. The abbey's riches were never found in England. According to the fourth version, the affair was not without Freemasons. The strange intricate designs, the mines and tunnels found, may have been built by the Templars. This theory also includes the mystery of the Holy Grail, for which the money mine of Oak Island would be an ideal hiding place. The fifth version says that in the early years of the bloody French Revolution of 1789, the French royal house of Bourbon's valuables were hidden on the island. There is also a sixth version, and by the way, it is not the last. It says that to build such a complex technical structures under the ground only to hide in them a few chests with jewelry is just a futile effort. And it is not about the treasures, because according to the official science people several centuries ago did not know how to build anything like that. Whatever the versions, but no one has ever managed to get to the report. After the discovery of several tunnels near the shoreline, which led to the money pit, through which, according to experts, water flowed into the mine. They were blocked. The canals had been swamped by waves and backfilled. But as you can understand, and these actions have led to nothing. The money pit still continued to fill with water. Today, Canada's Oak Island, famous for 2 centuries of drilling and treasure hunting. And the only detail that is known is that the money pit remains one of the greatest mysteries on the planet that has never been solved. All in all, it is even hard to believe there have been more than 20 large and expensive expeditions to the island, each coming with new and ingenious plans, with mega-modern rigs, with research equipment and more. But no one has ever been able to get into that very secret room, at the bottom of that mine. And the work to unravel it hasn't stopped for 200 years and even now. In one of these expeditions, even former US President Franklin Roosevelt had a chance to work. He was only 27 years old at the time. When he was asked about this time and the mysterious mine, he simply answered that it was probably too early for us, the humans, to know about it. And what do you think? For what, and more importantly, by whom were these complex multi-level mines and wells with underground channels and mysterious inscriptions made? Visitors from other worlds or a vanished civilization? Write your guesses in the comments. But that's all for today. Rate the video if you like it and see you soon.